I was halfway down the frozen foods aisle when I felt a light tap on my shoulder. I turned, expecting someone to ask where to find the oat milk or something like that. Instead, a woman I'd never seen before smiled politely and said, "Your daughter is beautiful." For a second, I thought she was talking to someone else. I glanced behind me, then back at her, confused. "I don't have a daughter," I said. The woman's smile faded. Her eyebrows pinched together as she looked past me again, over my shoulder. Her voice dropped slightly. "She's been following you since the park. I assumed she was yours." My stomach twisted. I didn't understand what she meant. Slowly, I turned around. That's when I saw her. A little girl, no older than 5. Tiny brown curls pulled back with a scrunchie. She wore a faded purple sweatshirt with a unicorn on the front and held a stuffed bunny by its ears. She stood just a few feet behind me, looking up with wide eyes. "Can we go home now, Mommy?" she asked. I froze. She stepped closer and reached for my hand. I didn't move. I couldn't. I looked back at the woman, who was watching the girl just as unsettled as I was. "She's been walking behind you for a while," the woman said gently. "At least since you left the park. I was sitting on a bench and noticed her. I thought she was with you." I didn't know what to say. I looked down at the little girl again. She was standing right beside me now, holding my hand like it belonged to her. "I think you're mistaking me for someone else," I said softly. "I'm not your mom." Her grip didn't loosen. She just nodded, like she'd heard me but didn't believe it. "Come on," she said. "We should go now." My heart was pounding. I glanced around the store. A couple of other shoppers were watching us. Heat rushed to my face. I didn't want to scare her, but I also didn't want it to look like I was walking off with someone else's child. I knelt down in front of her. "What's your name?" I asked. She didn't answer. "Do you know where your mom or dad is?" Still nothing. She just looked at me, waiting for me to stop asking questions and start walking. I could feel the woman behind me shifting awkwardly. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to cause confusion. I just thought—" "No, thank you," I said quickly. "You did the right thing." She nodded and disappeared down another aisle. I turned back to the girl. "Where are your parents?" "You are," she said quietly. Way too calm. I stood up and slowly pulled out my phone. I didn't want to scare her, but I needed help. I called the front desk and asked for security. "She says I'm her mom," I explained, keeping my voice low. "But I've never seen her before in my life." I looked down. She was still holding my hand. Sunday was supposed to be simple. I had a short to-do list and just enough energy to get it done. My mom, Denise, had asked for groceries, and I was heading to the store anyway, so I figured I'd take care of it before lunch. I told her I'd come by in the afternoon, with chicken, apples, and her favorite dark chocolate. She still insisted on Venmoing me the exact change every single time. Mom had hip surgery 5 weeks earlier, and I'd been helping her ever since, bringing food, tidying the house, driving her to physical therapy. She hated being helped even more than I liked helping, but I did it. Not because I'm a saint, because she's my mom. She raised me on her own after my dad left when I was 8. And as hard as she could be, she never stopped fighting for us, even when she didn't have much. So yes, I owed her 100 grocery runs, and then some. I parked outside the store, slid my keys into my jacket pocket, and grabbed my reusable bags from the back seat. The parking lot was only half full, that quiet window between early church crowds and the Sunday rush. Inside, the store smelled like lemons and fresh bread. I remember that clearly, which is strange now. I remember pushing my cart past produce, checking my phone to reread Mom's text. She'd added eggs and almond milk at the last minute. I wasn't in a bad mood. I wasn't in a great one either, just tired. I'd been working long hours from home as a web designer, mostly for small businesses. My latest client texted at odd hours about color palettes. I hadn't had a real day off in a while. Even when I wasn't working, I was on call for my mom. That wasn't a complaint. It was just how things were. I'd gotten used to being alone. I lived in a quiet, tree-lined suburb about 10 minutes from her house. No husband, no kids, no roommates. My house was small, and I liked it that way. Peaceful, predictable. Kids were never part of the plan. Not because I didn't like them. I did, in small doses. But motherhood never pulled at me the way it did for some of my friends. I had a few nieces and nephews from cousins on my dad's side, but they lived in Texas. My closest family was my mom and my sister Angela. Except Angela had been gone for 6 years. I don't talk about her much anymore. Not because I don't care. It just hurts. She was 2 years older than me, wild and complicated. We were close as kids, but as we grew up, we became different people. She made choices I didn't understand, got caught up in things she couldn't handle. She was brilliant and self-destructive, and when the overdose happened, I wasn't surprised. That's the worst part. It was messy and sad and unfinished. There was no closure, just the hole she left behind. So it was just me and Mom and the grocery store and this ordinary Sunday. Until it wasn't ordinary anymore. I moved through the aisles quickly. Apples, check. Eggs, check. Chicken, check. The rotisserie stand was fully stocked, thankfully. I grabbed a hot one and wrapped it in an extra bag so the juices wouldn't leak. I was just about to head toward the dairy aisle when I noticed something small out of the corner of my eye. A little girl stood just inside the entrance of the store. She was alone, at least at that moment. It barely registered. Kids wander away from their parents all the time in grocery stores. I assumed someone was nearby. I didn't stare. I kept walking. I turned into the freezer aisle to grab Mom's almond milk, the last item on my list. My phone buzzed in my jacket pocket. Another text from Mom, asking for an update. I smiled and typed back a quick, "Almost done." She hated feeling like a burden. She always asked if I was sure I didn't mind doing all of this. I was about to hit send when I felt the tap on my shoulder. It was so light, I almost thought I imagined it. But when I turned, a woman I'd never seen before gave me a warm smile and said, "Your daughter is beautiful." The words didn't make sense at first. I actually laughed a little, unsure how to respond. "I don't have a daughter," I told her. She looked past me. Her smile disappeared, replaced by something darker, worried. "She's been following you since the park," she said. Everything inside me tightened. When I turned around, the same little girl was standing there again, closer this time. She looked up at me with big brown eyes and asked the question that changed everything. "Can we go home now, Mommy?" I didn't know what to do. She was still holding my hand like it belonged to her, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, steady and warm. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't crying. She looked at me with quiet expectation, like she'd known me forever, and this moment was exactly how things were supposed to go. I looked around the grocery store. The dairy refrigerators hummed softly behind us. The woman who'd spoken to me earlier was gone. A man walked past with a basket of frozen waffles and did a double take, probably wondering why a child was calling someone who clearly wasn't her mother, Mommy. I knelt down again, more slowly this time. "Sweetheart, I'm not your mommy," I said. "Do you know where your parents are? Did you come here with someone?" She stared at me. I couldn't read her expression. She wasn't scared or confused. If anything, she looked patient, like she was waiting for me to stop asking and start understanding. "My name is Lena," I said gently. "Can you tell me your name?" Nothing. "What about your last name, or how old you are? Do you know where you live?" Still no answer. Then finally she whispered, "Eliza." Her voice was so soft I almost missed it. "Eliza," I repeated. "That's a beautiful name. Eliza, are you lost?" She hesitated, then shook her head. Are you here alone? Another shake. Did someone bring you here? This time she gave the faintest nod. Who brought you? You, she said. My blood went cold. She wasn't joking. She wasn't being playful. She believed it. I stood up and gently tried to loosen her grip, but she held on tighter, not in panic, just firm, like she was afraid I'd disappear. I pulled my phone from my pocket and walked us toward the customer service desk near the entrance. I needed help. I needed someone who knew what to do because I was completely out of my depth. The manager behind the counter looked up from his paperwork. Hi, can I help you? This little girl says I'm her mother, I said. I've never seen her before. Someone told me she's been following me since the park. I don't know what to do. He leaned over the counter and looked at Eliza. Has she told you her name? Eliza, I said. That's all. She won't let go of my hand. He nodded and picked up a walkie-talkie. A few moments later, a security guard arrived, a younger guy named Mitch. He was calm but serious. Do you mind stepping into the office for a moment? He asked. I followed, Eliza still holding my hand. Inside the small security office were 2 chairs and a monitor showing camera feeds from around the store. Mitch offered Eliza a juice box. She didn't even glance at it. She sat beside me and leaned against my arm. We'll call the police, Mitch said. They'll know how to handle this. You said she was following you? I nodded. I didn't even notice her until someone pointed it out. The woman said Eliza had been behind me since I came from the park down the street. And you've never seen her before today? Never. Mitch turned to the monitor and started clicking through timestamps. There she was, in every frame since I entered the store, always just behind me, quiet, watching. My chest tightened as I watched her follow me on screen, step for step, like she already knew where I was going. The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers, 1 man and 1 woman. They asked me to explain everything again, and I tried to keep my voice steady as I did. Eliza sat at the desk, coloring with crayons one of them had given her, the soft scratch of wax against paper filling the room. The female officer knelt beside her. Hi, Eliza. Can you tell me where you live? Eliza didn't answer. What about your mommy's name? Or your daddy's? Eliza looked up and pointed at me. She's right here. The officer straightened and gave me a careful look. Do you know this child at all? Family friend? Neighbor? I shook my head. I swear, I've never seen her before. I don't have kids. I live alone. They asked for my ID, which I handed over. They took a few photos of Eliza for their report and made calls to check for any missing child cases in the area. Nothing came up. No one had reported a little girl named Eliza missing. No family was searching for her. No Amber Alerts, nothing in the system. One of the officers asked if I'd be willing to stay while they contacted social services. I said yes. I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't going to walk away from her. She curled up beside me on the bench. I rested my hand on my lap, and she reached for it again. The way she held my hand, like it mattered, shook me in a way I couldn't explain. I didn't know who this little girl was, but I could feel that something wasn't right. And it wasn't just the situation. It was something in her eyes, like she already knew me, like she'd been waiting. I stayed at the store for 3 hours. During that time, 5 different people tried to talk to Eliza. Police officers, a paramedic, a representative from Child Protective Services. None of them got more than a few words from her. She never cried, never asked for anything. She just stayed close to me, like she'd already decided where she belonged. At first, I told myself she was just scared or confused, maybe traumatized. But after a while, I realized something else. She wasn't acting like a lost child. She was acting like a child who had found someone. Every time someone tried to separate us, her body went rigid, and her fingers tightened around mine. If I stepped out of the room to take a call or get water, she stared at the door until I came back. The moment I returned, she relaxed. She trusted me, and I had no idea why. I sat there with questions I couldn't answer. Where had she come from? Who had been taking care of her before this? Why wasn't anyone looking for her? Why did she call me Mommy? The police tried to reassure me. They said sometimes children fixate on someone when they're under stress. That she might have seen me at the park and latched on. That she'd likely been through something that caused emotional regression. They asked if I was willing to let CPS take over from there. They would place her somewhere safe, a temporary foster home, until they could locate a relative or guardian. They thanked me for cooperating, for staying calm. I nodded and told them I understood. But I didn't feel calm. I felt protective. Every part of me was screaming that I shouldn't let her go. Not yet. Not without answers. Not without knowing she would be okay. When the social worker arrived, Eliza was sitting beside me on the bench, her head resting against my arm. She looked small and sleepy, her fingers still wrapped around mine. The woman introduced herself as Jackie. She had kind eyes and a soft voice. She crouched down to Eliza's level. "Hi there, sweetheart. My name is Jackie. I'm going to take you somewhere safe tonight, okay?" Eliza didn't respond. She didn't even look at her. Then she did something I wasn't prepared for. She reached up and wrapped both arms around me. Not in panic, not in fear, in trust. Complete, unconditional trust. "Please don't leave me again," she whispered. That word, again, hit me like a punch to the chest. I looked up at Jackie. "Can I stay with her?" I asked. "Just for tonight." Jackie's smile was sympathetic but firm. "Unfortunately, that's not how it works. There's a process, paperwork, licensing. She has to be placed with someone cleared for emergency foster care." "I understand," I said, though I didn't. "But look at her. She won't even look at anyone else." Jackie hesitated, then turned to one of the officers. He stepped aside to make a call. 10 minutes later, they came back with a proposal. I could apply for temporary custody as a kinship hold, assuming I was willing to be fingerprinted and interviewed immediately. It was unusual, but given Eliza's behavior and the fact that she responded only to me, they were willing to make a temporary exception pending background checks. "Is there any chance you might actually be related to her?" Jackie asked. "No," I said automatically. I would know. But even as I said it, something twisted in my stomach. Eliza looked like Angela. Not exactly, but there was something there. The eyes, the shape of her mouth. It wasn't obvious, but now that I was really looking, I saw it. I shoved the thought aside. Angela didn't have children. She never talked about wanting them. If she had, I would have known, wouldn't I? I signed the paperwork anyway. They took my fingerprints, ran a background check, and explained the next steps. I'd have to appear in court within a week. I'd need to meet with a family investigator. I'd be responsible for keeping Eliza safe and supervised until the state figured out who she was. None of it felt real. When I opened the passenger door of my car and buckled Eliza into the back seat, my hands were shaking. She looked up at me with sleepy eyes. "Do we live far?" she asked. I smiled, unsure how to answer. "No," I said. "Not too far." She leaned her head against the window on the drive home and started humming, a soft tune with no words. My throat tightened. Angela used to hum like that all the time. I didn't sleep much that first night. Eliza curled up on the couch under a soft blanket, her stuffed bunny tucked beneath her chin. I sat in the armchair nearby, watching her chest rise and fall with each breath. My house was quiet, dim, still. It should have felt peaceful, but it didn't. It felt like I was holding my breath, waiting for something I couldn't name. The next morning, I got a call from Detective Carson, one of the officers who had handled the grocery store report. He asked if I could come in to answer a few more questions. I agreed. I packed snacks into a Ziploc bag and buckled Eliza into the car. At the station, Carson met us at the front desk and led us down a hallway into a small, windowless room. He gestured to a chair. "You can sit. She can stay with you." Eliza climbed into my lap like she'd done it 100 times before. Carson opened a thin manila folder. "We ran the DNA sample we collected from Eliza," he said. "We weren't expecting much. No national reports, no local matches in the missing persons database. But something came up we didn't anticipate." My pulse quickened. Carson's tone shifted. Careful now. "The system cross-referenced her DNA with people already in the database. It's routine. Usually nothing turns up. This time, it did." I nodded, barely breathing. "You're not her mother," he said, "but there's a strong partial match." "Partial?" I asked. "Strong enough to suggest you're biologically related. Very closely." My mind raced. "Are you saying I'm her aunt?" Carson nodded. "That's the most likely relationship. Based on the genetic markers, aunt is our working assumption." I felt the word before I fully understood it. Angela. My sister had a child, and I never knew. I looked down at Eliza, who was tracing the lines of my hand with her finger. I'd spent years grieving Angela, angry and confused by the spiral she fell into near the end. Rehab, promises, disappearances. The last time I saw her, she was painfully thin, hiding behind oversized sunglasses, hugging me like she didn't deserve it. She never said a word about being pregnant. "Do you know who her parents were?" I asked quietly. Carson flipped through the folder. "Her birth certificate isn't in formal records, but hospital notes tied to her Social Security application list her mother as Angela Whitmore." I pressed a hand to my chest, trying to breathe. She used her real name. No mention of the father. "It appears the hospital may have been told she passed away shortly after," Carson added. "She didn't die from childbirth," I said. "No, but it's possible she gave the baby up and told people she'd had a miscarriage or abortion." My world shattered and rearranged itself all at once. All those years I mourned my sister, never once imagining there might be a piece of her still out there. A living child with her eyes and her humming voice. Eliza hadn't been lost. She'd been abandoned. And somehow, she'd found me. "Where has she been?" I asked. "She lived with a family in Eugene," Carson said. "Friends of your sister. No formal adoption ever went through. The man died in a car accident last month. His wife tried to keep Eliza, but suffered a stroke shortly after. No legal guardianship. The system stepped in, and she ran." "She ran?" "Yes, we believe she may have seen your photos somewhere in the house. She walked several miles from the edge of the park district, alone." I looked down at Eliza again. Her eyes were closed now, her thumb in her mouth, fingers tangled in my shirt. I didn't know how she found me, but in a world full of strangers, she looked at me and saw family. I signed the papers to begin formal guardianship that afternoon. There were hearings, background checks, evaluations. None of it would be easy. But I knew one thing for certain. She had been lost long enough. Now she was home. It's been 6 months since that day in the grocery store. 6 months since a little girl called me Mommy and turned my world inside out. We live together now, permanently. After weeks of interviews, court dates, home inspections, and psychological evaluations, the judge signed the order declaring me Eliza's legal guardian. The paper was crisp and official, full of clinical language. But when I looked at her and said, "We're family now," she just smiled and nodded, like she already knew, like she'd always known. Raising her hasn't been easy. She came to me with scars I couldn't see at first. Some nights she wakes up crying but won't say why. She's still quiet in crowds. She still panics if I leave the room for too long, even if it's just to get something from the kitchen. She needs routine, stability, a steady hand, and a calm voice. I'm learning how to be all of those things, even on the days I feel like I'm failing. I used to think parenting was about being prepared, about having the right gear, the right mindset, the perfect lifestyle. I had none of that. I had mismatched plates and a schedule that barely worked for me. I didn't even own a nightlight until Eliza moved in. But now I know parenting is about showing up every single day. It's making grilled cheese the way she likes it, cutting the crusts off, letting her pick the bedtime story, even when it's the same one 4 nights in a row. It's holding her hand at the dentist, helping her learn to ride a bike, telling her she's safe, that she's wanted, that she's loved, again and again, until she believes it. My mother had a lot of questions when I told her everything. She sat quietly for a long time, then said, "Angela never told me either. I would have helped if I'd known." There was no anger in her voice, just regret. She comes over more now than ever. She reads to Eliza, teaches her old songs from our childhood, calls her my brave little bug. Watching them together sometimes breaks my heart. It reminds me of all the years Angela spent in pain, all the things she carried that she never let us see. I still don't have all the answers. I may never know why my sister kept her daughter a secret, or why Eliza found me when she did. But I do know this. My grief didn't end with Angela's death. It just changed shape. It became responsibility. It became the space I had to make for someone new. Someone who didn't just need a roof and food, but a future. Eliza is thriving now. She laughs more. She draws constantly, covering the fridge with crayon suns and purple houses and 3 stick figures, me, her, and our cat Penny. She hums while she colors, soft and steady, just like Angela did. I never told her about that. She just does it. One morning, I asked her if she remembered the day we met. She nodded. "You followed me through the store," I said. "Why me?" She shrugged, like the answer was obvious. "Because you looked like home." Those 4 words undid me. All the doubt, all the fear, all the wondering if I was enough, if I was just a placeholder until someone more qualified came along. Because you looked like home. I think about that all the time now. How many people walk through life feeling invisible? How many children are passed from house to house without ever being truly seen? She found me. Or maybe, in some strange way, we found each other. Every time I pack her lunch or help her zip up her coat, I feel it, that small, steady heartbeat of purpose. I didn't expect her. I didn't ask for her. But she became mine, and I became hers. And sometimes, life gives you exactly what you need, long before you know you're ready. She calls me Mom now. Not Mommy, not Lena, just Mom. The first time she said it, I was pouring milk into her cereal bowl. It was quiet and effortless. "Thanks, Mom." I almost dropped the spoon. I didn't cry. I smiled and said, "You're welcome, sweetheart." Because after everything we've been through, every unanswered question, every difficult night, every small victory, the truth is simple. She was never a stranger. She was family. Thank you for listening to my story. This wasn't something I ever imagined sharing, but if it reached you, if it made you feel something or reminded you how powerful connection can be, then I'm glad I did. If this story moved you or made you think about someone in your life a little differently, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. I read them, and they mean more than you know. If you felt something while watching this, shock, sadness, or even a little hope, Please like the video and share it with someone who might need it. You never know whose story you might help bring to light. And if you want to hear more true personal stories like this, stories about life, family, the unexpected, and everything in between, make sure to subscribe. There's so much more to come. Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. And remember, sometimes the people we're meant to love find us in the most unexpected ways.